I'd like to call the July meeting of the Deschutes Public Library to into session. Welcome everybody. Thanks for that productive work session. Our first order of business is oath of office for newly elected board members, and that would be Ray, me, and Cynthia. So Todd, would you like to administer our oath to us?
Yes, please stand. Okay, raise your hand.
And okay, Marge.
Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Do solemnly swear or I will support the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the State of Oregon and the laws thereof, and the policies.
Constitution of the State of Oregon and the laws thereof.
The Constitution of the State of Oregon and the laws thereof.
And the policies of the Deschutes Public Library District.
And policies of the Deschutes Public Library District.
During my term, I will faithfully and impartially discharge.
During my term, I will faithfully and impartially discharge
The responsibilities of the office of Deschutes Public Library District Board Member to the best of my ability.
The responsibility of the office of the Deschutes Public Library.
What my free board member to the best of my ability. I think we got this.
Okay, we got next, 2 years, we're gonna practice doing this in sync.
Right, or maybe we should just all do
Just read
a reading, yeah, do a reading, yeah.
Good.
I would say well done.
And congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I can't hear, so
I know.
we weren't gonna be in unison.
Okay,
That's all right.
so now that we have that out of the way. We next order of business is election of officers for the coming year. And so I would open the floor to nominations.
I move to nominate, use that, we can do that.
Yeah.
I move to nominate Bunny Thompson to serve as the board president for the 2023-2024 fiscal year.
Yes, I'll second. Okay.
Thank you for having confidence in me.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Bunny is elected as our new president. Let me give you the gavel.
Already? I don't, now you have lots of important decisions.
Yeah, all right, and you can take over the meeting.
And before I forget, I will need your signature and printed name and try to get it in the box as best you can.
Okay.
For the check sign.
Oh,
Check
yeah.
sign, yes.
Oh, you're, now, instead of her stamp, it's your stamp.
Yes, so sign it carefully because we'll all be seeing your signature for the next year.
All right, well, here we go. I guess at this point, we will open the meeting up for public comment.
Oh,
Well, no, we need to do a vice president.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. We need a vice president. Any nominations?
I would nominate Cynthia as vice president.
I'll second. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay.
Oh, I keep waiting for you.
I know, I saw it, I have to keep reading.
Okay, Cynthia's been nominated for vice president. All those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
All right,
Okay,
You
Cynthia
promise to never be gone.
And do we have any other officers or anything else? Okay,
No.
okay.
Minutes.
Let's see the minutes. Does everyone have a chance to look over last month's minutes? Are there any changes? Any changes,
Nope.
corrections?
Nope.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
Also move.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we're down to public comments. Would entertain public comments.
We did not have anybody sign in and.
Greg is our
No
only participant. Do you have any public comments, Greg?
A lot of comments and then
Yeah, it's easy.
All right, since there's no public comments, we'll move on to executive limitation and bond updates, which is mini. So, Greg, I will turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. So, I'm just running through where things are at in June. We finalized the schedule update. We talked last month about that we're gonna have a revision to Sisters in the Pine where we reversed their opening order. And so that was implemented and that was issued out as part of our schedule update, which was the June 16th. And so the dates that you see in the report with the summary of opening dates is current and accurate for that. We're always doing a little bit of adjustment. We're looking at some fine tuning on Sunriver temporary trailer. When we shut it down in Sisters and when we move it over, it's gonna move around 3 to 5 days, just to get Sisters a little bit more time and then get it probably set up and ready to go at Sunriver. So only a couple minor things adjusting there. Stevens Ranch is advancing per schedule. You know, we moved from the design development phase into construction documents. And so the design team is rolling right along there. Our site plan application is in and being processed. In Redmond, a lot of activity there, schedule wise. Yes.
I noticed on the Stevens Ranch, you moved the construction start from end of February to end of January. Move forward.
Yes, it's, we split the way we're doing our permitting there, where we'll have a grading permit and then a site improvement permit, and then our building. And so we've always planned to have multiple permits in the phasing of it. And the city agreed that we could give grading permit, and Kirby said they would like to start sooner. They don't actually mind and prefer to do the grading in the winter because there's a lot of moisture in the ground. You don't have to be adding water. Right now it's hot, dry, and you spend a lot of money buying water and pouring it to the ground to get moisture. And there's enough rock, they're gonna be blasting that frozen ground, doesn't matter to them. So, yeah, no, there was that change. I didn't know that. But otherwise, for the most part, it's moving right along in Redmond. They finished up the slab pours. And they're gonna start standing columns and going vertical with the building up this coming week. So between now and through the month of September, October, you'll see the whole building frame go up. And it's really gonna be pretty exciting to see all the big timbers. So blue land columns and beams have already been arriving at the site. DLT, the planks, those are getting ready to be shipped down. Kirby was up in Canada is where the manufacturer is. And so they went up to inspect them, check them out before they loaded them up on the truck, see how they were wrapping them and protecting them from the weather and the elements and stuff and getting them back down here. So yeah, there's gonna be some really cool pictures and videos coming out. You know, at some point, I think we talked about doing an site visit out there, so. You know,
Are you doing a time lapse shot as it goes?
you know, we've got a camera system put in place and they're having some problems with our video feed. It's there because of builder's risk insurance requirements. But we add in a video feed for the camera so we can see it like from the website. And there's some component that it's not running. But yes, we have one. It's just not visible at the moment. So last I heard, they were coming out this week to fix that and get it back online. But we do have security cameras, so they have multi-functions of security monitoring. So there's 24-hour monitoring, so if something happens, somebody's seeing it and alerting either police or fire and curb any issues, so. The Sisters in Lapine projects are just marching right along. We started installing, Sun West Builders is right to the finishing stages of their work, dealing with our issues, we had with our switch gear and getting in final materials coming in. We had a little bit of challenge with some mechanical units and door hardware. They're going to come in on time, but not as early as they would have liked. Nothing that the team hasn't been able to, deal with and still maintain our schedule. But the early learning elements, all of the graphics were installed in Sisters this week. And so they look really cool. I saw pictures of them yesterday, but it's kind of fun because now all of a sudden we're starting to put in the FF&E, starting to layer in, and that pit ramps up all month long and through August. So both of those are marching right along. A lot of planning for the opening operations and the move-ins going on with DPL and all of the vendors.
You ready to get the new switch and?
The switch gears are tracking to be delivered on time. We do this installation of them the last week of August. And so everything's prepped and ready, and everything from the manufacturer is that it's being delivered as scheduled. So no new news as of today. So, which is always good. On the budget, we've been working on an overall budget update. I've made some adjustments as we went through. The program funding sources increased because of interest earned based on the latest Piper Sandler report. So that increases that element. General administrative, Stevens Ranch and downtown Bend remained unchanged. No changes to those budgets. On the Redmond Library, there was 3 changes I noted. One was we had some survey work done where there was the little park between the police station and the library, which the library owns a little piece of it and the police station owns part of it. And the city has agreed to do a lot line adjustment and put the park in under the library's ownership. Which, because they're going to sell that land, a buyer couldn't have done anything with it. And so they're going to transfer that over. We get the survey to do all those, and the city's processing all of the documents. And so that was the survey cost. Under hard cost, which is our construction cost, that's where
The city is not charging us for the land.
there'll probably be a nominal fee because they can't give it to us, whether it's $1 or some small amount. They gave me a comparison. They did another transfer of a similar type of piece of land, and I think it was $1,000 on that one. So
Negotiating.
yes, exactly. And so we agreed, hey, we'll spend the money to do the lot line adjustment, and then they're doing all the processing of it.
Okay.
So ultimately, we'll sign and agree on what that nominal fee will be. So,
Excellent. Thankful.
the hard cost budget, which is construction, and we'll talk, I've got an executive summary for sign off, but it's really increasing, moving money from our contingency in Redmond up into construction costs. And as we've gone through, there was one major change that we made, significant change. And it has to do with a modular electrical system. And, we have the raised access. And so it's a flooring system that lets us get in, and underneath the floor is all of the electrical power and air conditioning and everything. Well, we went with an alternate type of electrical system that allows us, it's called a modular system, and lets us move junction boxes around under the floor. And it's a little bit more expensive. It was an alternate. We wanted to evaluate and see, does this make sense? It creates a lot of flexibility for building long-term. So should the district ever want to make any renovations and move stuff around, these aren't hard pipe where it's fixed in point. They're flexible. And so you can just unscrew them and move them. And they're all on whips so they can move around. And so it's, overall, we added a few extra circuits to create more circuits throughout. But it just added that flexibility. The other portion of that is just small miscellaneous changes that are starting to come through that we wanted to make sure we had authorization level in place to go through, and I'll go through that a little bit more in detail with the summary. The other increase was in our owner costs or FF&E costs, and that was around our shelving system. As we completed the shelving design, there's a few things that drove our shelving above our budget there, and we had the contingency set aside for that. So this is allocating contingency out for that. And I'll go through it in detail, but it has to do with our final shelving design, its flexibility. We put a lot of stuff on wheels, so it's mobile, so that the district can move them around, rearrange them, open up spaces to have an event, and then put them back. And that increased the overall cost. Those were the changes there. It didn't change the overall Redmond budget, but it allocated contingency into the line items that we were spending. So that was the changes there. On Sisters in Lapine, hard cost, again, that's construction cost with our CMGC Sun West builders. And it increased both of them combined, they were 60,000, and a couple primary things. One was signage. We made some changes to signage. We moved signage that was going to be an FF&E purchase into Sun West's contract because they already had a signed subcontractor, and so we had them supply everything. So it'd be one package, and that was somewhat just a reallocation of scope. A little bit on some, we also are having them purchase and install some of our AV equipment, the monitors, the TV screens, the supports for those and those things. And so those are the things that are pushing that up and over. Otherwise, no other changes in that budget. And the reserve contingency is where we put the interest earned that came in. So in this case, this month, it was 842,000, and it goes into that contingency, which currently sits at about 4.4 million. That's kind of in a holding pattern right there, right now, because one of the things bond counsel will do is they do an evaluation of the interest we earn and whether or not the district owes taxes to the government on that. And so it's just sitting, we won't know that till later this year, like October probably.
Yes.
And then we'll be able to determine, okay, what is the appropriate amount? We don't pay it until the end of the project.
We won't pay it until 5 years after the start of the bond issuance. So we get this report developed annually, so we know how much money we might need to set aside at that 5-year mark.
So we're kind of putting it in a holding cell right now. That way it's there, you know, it's being earned, but we're not really planning to use it for development costs, but to pay any taxes until we know for sure. So that was kind of everything on the adjustments. You know, one of the things, actually, I'll catch it up. On procurements, we'll talk about these. The separate awards, which is the Sunriver and Redmond Shelving. We're ready to award those contracts. The Sunriver furniture contract, the Redmond general contractor increase, and that was what I was mentioning about the change orders that we've had with them. And then also the RFID technology And we'll go through that in detail, but the Redmond, we're ready to place that order. And so that's all of the book drops, depositories, the AMH, all of the various components and pieces that we have with FE who's our vendor and supplier on that project. So we'll run through that in a little bit more detail, but those are all of the authorizations that we'll review today. No changes really on our insurance. That's progressing well. Entitlements with Stevens Ranch, still with the city. They gave us some preliminary comments back from the engineering department on our application, but it was all standard comments that you get pretty much on every one, that when you produce your construction documents, make sure you do this, 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 and this. But no issues or questions today from them, any concern. So our application is going through and now continue for the next few months before it's done. On the overall design and construction, like I said, we moved from design development into CDs as we last month met with the architect and went through the DD design. We've spent the entire month of June and even early here in July going through reviewing those plans and documents in detail, having work sessions with the design team over questions, shelving, signage, all the little components as well as the main building. So all of those are progressing right along. We did a lot of cost estimating on that set, and we pretty much completed. We're right at budget. So we're looking really good on our construction budget for Stevens Ranch. We have a group of alternates that we're evaluating, some that are additive, some of them that are deductive, to one that we maintain budget, but also look at any options that we have. This is kind of about the last point in time where if we're going to make any change, we want to do it so that they can get it into the construction documents. And so we're working through that. That'll be something we want to kind of wrap up this month here in July. So Miller Hall and the design team know exactly what they need to do drawing going forward, and really helps push along to have plans ready to go into plan check. So that is all advancing well. And it's the construction, but also the FF&E. So we've gone through preliminary furniture designs, shelving systems, all of those elements in addition to the building. Redmond, from a building standpoint, there isn't anything. We are finalizing our early learning design. That'll be going on through the end of this year. And so that's just in progress. Shelving is finalized. We went through the final review yesterday, the shelving system. That's won the award. So that's ready. And we want to cut them loose and get them able to have plenty of time for fabrication between now and we don't need it till June or so of next year to do that, but we'll let them have plenty of time to do that part. So everything's moving right along there. Sisters Lapine, again, not much else to say there. They're just in the finishing stages. Sunriver plan check. We did get comments back from the county on our building plan check, and it is very minor comments, nothing that were significant. The architect already reviewed and responded back to the county, so it's back in plan check. Our temporary trailer permit application is processing through and not expecting any issues. It's just working its way through the system there, and we need those out in October. So we're actually looking at both of those permits fully secured well in advance. So I think all of those are wrapping up. The early learning design is finishing up. They wanted to get everything focused on Sisters and Lapine wrapped up and complete. And so now they're finishing up Sunriver, which is almost identical. Same components, different quantities and layouts. No real activity this past month on East Band or Downtown Band. And so those are things that we are working on an evaluation of. We East Bend. But kind of wanted to get through all of our major budget updates that we've been working on through this activity that's happened this past month, and we'll jump on that. Financing, the May draw has been processed, we'll be assembling in June. Nothing unique or significant about them, it's tracking our cash flow. So that's going on. I attached all of the photos, so hopefully we're able to see. So kind of this overall summary, any questions or comments?
What's the latest on the car that went through Lapine?
We're still waiting from the Pine Park and Recreation for their structural analysis to determine if the building is structurally sound enough for us to go in and make an assessment of what we can retrieve and what we need to accept as too damaged to be able to use. So right now, we are still in a holding pattern until it's determined to be safe to extend.
And so at this point, Lapine doesn't have a library.
Not necessarily. They're starting to do some, we partnered with the Lapine Activity Center. And we have some hours that we're going down there and giving out like some of the library stuff, any Shareberry books. We're also taking in returns. So we're doing that twice a week at the Lapine Activity Center. But at this point, yeah, we are going to be opening Lapine hopefully by mid-September. So there's just no real reason to try and look for another space. So yeah, it seems to be going well. And Sunriver's activity's gone up because they've been told to go up to Sunriver and people are traveling up there. So, or over here in downtown, so, or East Bend.
Thank you. I have two quick questions, and then we're wondering if this one goes to Lynn and Todd, but is there going to be some kind of celebration in grand opening in both Sisters in Lapine?
Yeah, so we'll be, it won't be the day we open, because we want to kind of work through that, but we're working on setting those up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then can you just, I'm not gonna understand it, I'm sure, but can you just kind of explain what it is you're doing to the flooring in Redmond so that the outlets can be moved around? I didn't.
Yeah, so it's called an access floor. So if you imagine this is the structural floor, the access floor sits on it and it's about 2 feet tall. It's 18, 19 inches.
It's almost like having a little, the whole floor being a stage.
Yeah, it's like a crawl space or stage. And there's little pedestals that sit on the hard floor, and then they're 2 foot by 2 foot panels.
They can be lifted up.
And you can lift them up, and they come with carpet and tile and you can put different flooring materials on. And so it's an access floor that you can pull up these anywhere on the system.
And put your outlets anywhere you need them.
Yeah, and so what runs in that space there is the mechanical ductwork, which lets the air come in from the floor and go up, which is really important to a lot of our mechanical design and efficiency. All of our electrical, so instead of anything coming from the ceiling down, it all comes from the floor up and into walls or directly into piece of furniture, shelving, and that.
That's cool.
Fire sprinkler lines run there, plumbing lines, it's like a crawl space under a house, is how it functions.
That's cool.
To give you a good example, right now, at the old Redmond Library or downtown, every once in a while, we think this computer right here would be good 3 feet over there. Or 10 feet. And that would involve shutting down the building, coming down and ripping a trench through cement and setting out. Very expensive. And now we could basically just open the panel, move the wires, set it up, and we're good to go.
That's cool. That's good. Those are the kinds of things that for all the people in Redmond who struggled no longer having that building, those are the kinds of things that the library needs to help the community understand and see what's the advantages they have to having this newer, more modern building, I think.
And having the air coming from the floor, that was the first thing we talked about with the architects when we were interviewing them. Because remember, that was, when we interviewed architects, that was the first chance in COVID to actually meet live, and then we shut down again. But that was a big piece that we were very concerned about, and that was a big benefit to air circulation, that it's much healthier coming from the floor.
Yeah, it's much healthier and much more energy efficient and usage, because moving air vertically up takes a lot less energy than trying to blow it down. And so sizes of equipment and fans is greatly reduced, therefore less power used. It really benefited us a lot. You know, we went for LEED certification on Redmond and Stevens Ranch, and our largest points earned is in our mechanical system design on both of those locations, and because of a lot of components, but that's a really big one.
And I just really appreciate the flexibility of it, because, I mean, all these things that you're doing that increase the flexibility, because I mean, when you look at when these buildings were built and the internet was like new, you know, and so like 20 years from now, what are the needs gonna be, and the more flexibility.
You know, one thing I didn't mention on Stevens Ranch, I had a chance to talk with the developer last week, and just, he was giving me an update on kind of the status of how they were doing. Our tentative map has been approved by the city, which allows them to move forward with all of the street improvements, and they're finalizing their permitting for everything in 27th Street, Wilderness Way, Santorini, all the bypass road that they use to build 27th Street, and they're expecting to commence that work here in late July, that they'll be, you know, they're working all over on their site, but we're gonna see them even coming further down. They were installing their electrical system, the underground electrical system, and low voltage systems. That's already come all the way down to our site. From the internal site, and then they'll go on down 27th Street, but they're making really good progress on everything there. He's still tracking to our closing date. He told me that they're planning to start building construction on the homes residential in right after the first of the year. First quarter, his goal is January. I don't know what his builder's goal is. Knowing him as a developer, he's going to push him hard to start sales. So that I thought was pretty exciting. You know, he's really excited about the development and its progress and how it's going. So very positive.
Is this housing development going to start from our property inward, or which direction is it going?
It actually starts on the back and works forward. Yeah. And it's straight back from us, and then it comes in, and you know, the apartments that are across the street from us will be in the earlier phases. He advanced, and when we bought the property and moved forward, as part of doing his streets, he's also doing those components.
So he has another piece of property further east, right?
It's not his, but there is another development, you know, that the city approved to bring that piece of property into part of the UGB, and then it will be annexed in. But
Oh, he doesn't own that then?
he doesn't own it. It's a different development group that's doing that.
Oh, okay.
That's actually even larger than Stevens Ranch in the quantity of homes that will go out there. And it's really set up to bring in a lot of affordable housing. And that was a big driver of why it was allowed to enter, even though it was outside the UGB. The state approved it and the city approved it to do that. I don't know a lot, but what I've read.
Yeah.
Okay. So sounds like a pretty good.
Does it move farther east? You said it's a.
Straight east.
Okay.
Yeah, it's literally like Stevens Ranch property, just almost the exact size flipped over.
Wow, that's interesting.
And so it'll continue out that road and build in that area. So. No other questions on that. I'll jump into the executive summary. The first one I have here is for the Redmond RFID and AMH equipment. And so this is, like I said, this is with FE Tech, who's our vendor, supplying all of this equipment. I put together, there's a summary of all the parts and pieces and that we'll be buying and the pricing that's estimated in there. And we'll be finalizing this. They'll get final cost on shipping and that stuff. And so there's a little contingency that's built into this to allow those final pricing once we sign those POs and adjustments. I think the authorization level is to not to exceed 375 in this. But these are the different kiosks, the security gates, book drops, and our first AMH machine. So all of that, and with it, there's a lot of components and stuff that go with that.
AMH standing.
So is the automated material handling.
So that's the conveyor.
That's the conveyor and sorter that says, oh, this book goes to Malkin, this goes to
Okay.
Sisters.
Yeah.
Stays here in Redmond.
Yeah.
So smart technology coming to us.
Have you had the opportunity to actually observe?
I haven't seen them yet, so.
Ann and I got to see it when we went to Washington DC several years ago. We got to see it. And it's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited. It's in.
And there will be window glass so that people, especially kids, can see this stuff.
We definitely have it in Stevens Ranch and Nelson. I'm drawing a blank. I don't know if you remember. We put a window
I
in.
think in Redmond, we're not having that full front like we do in Stevens Ranch, where the full front glass,
Yeah.
but there will be windows, kind of like peekaboo windows where you can watch it and do what you think, yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Can you talk about what smart holds are?
Just smart hold in here.
Um,
We are not doing smart hold at this time.
Oh, okay,
oh,
Yeah.
that's right. I-
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
Should-
Well, then I don't need to know.
Yeah. Smart holds is not ready for
Yeah.
our findings yet, but we are making sure that the building will be set up to have smart holds when the technology catches up with what we want.
Technology is close. So smart hold is basically, you know, when you pick up a holder on the shelf,
Mhm.
we would basically just put the books on the shelf. The shelf has an RFID reader on it. And as soon as you go and pull your book out, it checks it out to you. Also, if it's sitting there and let's say, Bunny, it was for you, you didn't pick it up. And the next person in line is Ann, it just stays there. It knows exactly what it's doing. And Ann gets a note saying your book's ready. And you come down and you pick it up. And so, and that's a lot of staff time to go and pull those, scan them, find out it's for another person, put them back on the shelf. So those are exciting. They're, I think they're that close to it being worthwhile to us. But there are still a couple of glitches that we couldn't quite overcome. So, but I expect that in a few years.
So it's on Holden Sisters, but Ann's the next one and it's applying.
Oh, well, then it would also tell us to go pull it and send it to Sisters or to wherever, yeah, but it's used in the same building.
Software thing behind all of this. so.
Yeah.
And we have the capability to easily install that technology.
Yeah, we've set it up so all those areas where we have old shelves are all wired and ready to go once we feel the technology is gonna work for us.
Nobody can hack into the system, can they? Are we secure in this? Then people won't know who's got on hold, who's taken out.
The answer to that, if you're the Oregon DMV or anybody else, is people can hack into things.
But our system is,
We have, and that is a better question for Mark about the security, but we have very high levels of security to try to eliminate that possibility.
yeah, we're concerned about that because we've always said, people don't know, the general public can't know who's got what book
Right.
on hold.
They would have
They
to
can
hack
find
into
out
our,
if it's checked out.
They would need to hack into our
Okay.
entire system,
Okay,
not just walk up to a shelf and figure it out. They would have to,
yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, and our IT department presently devotes quite a bit of energy and focus into ensuring that the system is secure from vulnerabilities. There's never a guarantee in a system
Right,
like connected to worldwide internet. But they spend quite a lot of time and effort ensuring that we're as protected as we can be.
okay. So this isn't increasing vulnerability at all, what we have there.
no, it's the same level, it's basically our database. And that's another reason that our database, we don't keep historical information.
Right,
So that's a big piece. We very much limit the amount of information we need to keep. For that very reason.
Patriot Act is still in place, isn't it, or not? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I want to ask a question, it's kind of on the lines of what Greg's asking and you're saying. So I know when the computer or somewhere, when I check out, I can go and look and see what I borrowed. So is that's just only viewable by me?
What happens is, what we don't keep is, what did you check out for the last 3 years?
Okay,
Only thing we can look at is what you currently have checked out
okay,
and not what you checked out and returned.
okay,
Now, as a customer, you have the ability to go there and do your own setting to ask it to save that
Okay,
information so that
okay.
you can go back and look at it. But you have to go in and activate it yourself.
yeah,
We don't do it.
right, okay.
You can see what you have on hold.
Right, yeah, I can see, but I can also, because I did activate, I wanted to see my borrowing, because I forget sometimes, oh, did I do that or did I not do that?
Yes, I activated.
Never happens, never happens. Did I thought it?
Yeah, that's why I just go to and read it again and go like, oh, I was. 20 pages in, I'm going. Of course.
Well, do we need a motion on this?
Yes.
Okay, let's call for a motion to, accept the Redmond Library RFID and AMH equipment.
We move to authorize the library director to execute a contract amendment with FE Technologies in an amount not to exceed $375,000.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Oh, question, is this the total cost then? This is final cost.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Just who seconded?
I did.
And without the.
All right, moving on to Redmond Library FF&E.
Yes, this is for the shelving system procurement. So this is all of the metal shelving system. I tried to put a little summary there because since we last did a shelving award, that was right after the first rounds for Sisters of Lapine. The metal shelving system is through one contract that we do with a cooperative agreement through one of the co-ops that DPL is a member of. And that's with Source, it's through Sourcewell, but the vendor is Space Saver. And our vendor, the rep, is Space Saver Specialists. We also back at Sisters of Lapine put out an RFP for millwork because that wasn't covered under the Space Saver contract. And so we had a vendor who replied that was Space Saver Specialist. We actually didn't get any others interested in it because it's very specialty trade. And then we did the sole source approval 2 or 3 months ago for that. So this is their first, there's 2 of them here, Sunriver will be next to put that package together. And so we've gone through with Miller Hall, the design team and our team, really vet all of the different pieces and components. Space Saver has been a very, helpful partner working through cost estimates, alternates and options to look at things that we wanted to study as we evaluated the shelving systems. I think DPL has worked to figure out, hey, what's the right configuration of the shelving, because we're also going with the new, the name of it, it's not Dewey Decimal, it's the Wayfinder system, which changes how the books are shelved and how they're organized. And so the shelving design itself is organized different. Long linear rows is not necessarily conducive to the Wayfinder system. And so that's been something that we've really worked through on Redmond a lot. It's much more impactful on the bigger libraries than it was on Citrus and Lapine. I think the other thing that we really looked at was how much could we put on wheels and make mobile to make it, again, flexibility to move them, reorganize them, change them, to be able to push shelves out of the way and open up a big space and have an event and then push them right back in. So those were things that have really been worked out, fine-tuned with the collections group. I know you guys all know Emily. Emily is very engaged on this piece. She wants to know exactly how our shelving system is going to be set up and make sure we do it right. So everything we've gone through, ready to award. This is one of them that it did exceed the budget we had established for it. So I'm utilizing contingency to offset those costs. But as we did our final analysis of it, it was really not something that felt like, hey, we need to cut back here. This was the bread and butter of the library, of how to get all the product out there and what it's going to run. So we really worked to make sure that we were meeting the goal of establishing a great facility for the customers, functional for operations. And so that's where we landed. It's $1.3 million, as you can see on here. So it's a really big component. I think the overall increase in the budget was 100,000. We had $1.2 million in there to begin with. So that's where we stand. Questions? And what I attached was the breakdowns of the costs, not for you to go through and analyze, but just wanted to let you see something. You know, we have them itemize every part and piece out so that we can see how did it compare to previous, what did we expect it, how does it fit within the contracts. And so our team, which is a collective group, vets through these numbers and to really check and make sure that we're comfortable saying, yes, this is ready.
So long linear is not true. What does this actually look like?
They have zigzags. There's some that are straight runs, but there's a lot that are different shape.
There's some Y shape
Yeah.
or like long center X shapes. They essentially creating clusters and pockets where you can create these various sections in the categories in Wayfinder. Yeah.
So does that automatically limit the amount of material that can be in each section? So future, if we have more of one topic.
Yeah, so that's part of that question of flexibility, and so that the shelves and the signage and the ability to move and add elements has been a good bit of what we've been looking at with the designer for these shelves. So we think that we've created a system that will allow us to expand and contract as those categories change over time.
And you can always move those modules next to each other, then group them.
Make different.
Different shapes.
Different shapes, yeah.
They have filler pieces that allow you to turn it, aim left, aim right.
Will these have space on there so that books, some of the books can actually face forward? Show you that.
Yes. We have a lot built in. This is all of the display units. So all of the hot and new, and then just things that want to face out versus being in stack.
Okay.
We have a lot of display units and they're spread throughout the library on all levels. All libraries have those.
Got flashing lights on it, so it's face.
You know, you think about it,
It left.
shelving, but then there's the mobile bins, the book bins, the large picture bins, the
Just all kinds of
display
fun stuff.
units.
Yeah.
I
It's
want,
gonna be great.
when you look at that list of all these different pieces,
The,
it is a big variety, you know. In my mind, it was a long road grocery store shelving, right? And it's nothing like that. It is gonna be a really, dynamic space with seating intermixed and dispersed throughout to where people can, the architect said last time, grab a book, sit down and read for an hour.
And it's-
Whatever, it's an inviting environment because of the way the shelving.
It's really going to promote the intent and the goals for the Wayfinder project, which is to improve discovery and increase circulation.
And
these
sisters-
shelves are low enough the librarians can see over them.
Yes, the ones that are in the center, yeah, I think the highest is the 66 inches.
So in terms of monitoring security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sisters
It's
will
always
be
been one of the
the
things.
first initiation into
What's
Wayfinder.
going on?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's already out there, Wayfinder, but Sisters will be the first, actually, Wayfinder will be the first where we walk in there, we'll have this new shelving and the new arrangement of collections, yes.
This will be interesting.
Yeah, and our signage program, kind of, it's not part of this, but goes right with it, is how the signage will be throughout all of the shelves and defined, because it's by topics. Stuff, so all works well together, though.
That's the signage will be taking into account anybody with visual impairment,
Yeah. As far as like size of print. and-
size and type of print, what background and everything.
It'd be great.
Well, I would like to make a motion. I move to authorize the library director with signing authority for up to $1,300,000 for the Redmond Library Shelving Systems contract.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, let's see, the next is, Redmond. Yeah, Redmond,
Oh, KNCC, typo, sorry. It's GMP, just saying if you're paying attention.
GMP adjustment.
Yeah. So, when we approved the last Redmond amendment, which set their GMP amount, it was a top end amount of 31,415,000 or so. And so and that included pre-construction and all of the construction costs and all of the anticipated costs that we knew at that time, that we were going through and finalizing and rolling into their contract. And some of that's by the amendments which set the GMP and then some by change orders as we finalize and review some things. And so this is to increase that authorization level by 200,000. And in part, it's the large item was the thing that we talked about, which was the modular power outlet electrical system that we want to use throughout in the raised access floor. And that was an enhancement that we studied, but we hadn't priced it yet to really know, hey, do we want to do this? Is it valuable? And we really do believe it's valuable and a good investment for the building. The other is, there's been small things that have popped up that were surprises and unknowns. We ran into a catch basin and a pipe that wasn't on the plans and it was just buried out there and was gonna be way too high. And so the city said, hey, you gotta pull that out and lower it and put it in ductile iron, and it was in some old concrete pipe. And so we are getting a few of those. And so we wanted just to increase the authorization level, because these are the things that come in at like 15,000 or 20,000. We don't have a lot of them, but there are a few that having that authorization level lets us process those types of changes with the contractor and have authorization level for tots. The one thing that I attached to this one is just the summary that we maintain. And I haven't printed, so you can see basically everything that's been executed to date. And things that are out for execution, items that are approved and getting, or pending execution. So, you know, the one large one there about the floor boxes, it's in there, it's like $96,000, and so that one will go. And then you can see there's some other things that have come up. Quite a few of those were originally anticipated. You'll see a number of things on there. It says contingency, and that's the contractor's use of the contingency within the GMP. And as part of their contract, they're entitled to have a contingency in their GMP, but we have the approval of their, you know, use of that contingency. And it's just to make sure that everybody is doing things appropriately. And we know how they're spending the money, because if they don't use all of that contingency, it all comes back to the district at the end of the project. And so we monitor and track that, just like if it's an additive cost or a credit. So thought that'd just be good to show you kind of the tool that we use to monitor and track costs. All of these changes are reviewed by the architects as well as ourselves, you know, because they look at it because we ask them, is this a legitimate change? Is it a change in scope or not? And they weigh in on it. They weigh in on the cost, both steel architects and Norfolk. So, and as well as our civil engineer and landscape, they all look at it as part of their contract is to give us that support. And our team is able to do the same, look at it. So, questions?
So this is the last and final GMP. This is the GMP then.
The GMP is set. This is just adjusting the GMP to increase. Sometimes there's changes that you have on a GMP based on things that aren't under the contractor's control. So like the modular system, we asked for that and requested that change. Unforeseen conditions or something that isn't anticipated by the contractor as part of the GMP or a use of their contingency is an adjustment to the GMP. So it'll be a change order to their contract.
So if they dip into the contingency, they'll come back to us for a change order.
It's a $0 change order because the
Right.
contractor's contingency is included in the GMP.
Right.
And so anything that is their responsibility under the plans, often there's some gray area and it's like, you should have anticipated something, use your contingency. But if we make a request, or if the city requires a change, or the architect comes and says, hey, my plan was wrong here, they couldn't have seen it, but we need to fix it, that's an owner's responsibility, and that's where you have an additive change order.
Oh, okay. So I thought, like, we asked for a change order, that's on us. But I thought the idea of the CMGC was both the contractor and the architects agree on the buildability in the final CDs. Then if there's a change that the architect says, oh, we forgot to do this, it's on the architect.
No, the architect doesn't actually pay. It's on the owner. The only time that ever comes into play is if you have a significant error in emission, that you may go back to the architect and the design team and say, we think this is your responsibility. That's really pretty rare, but the owner is responsible to carry a contingency for things that, because the owner is responsible for the design, ultimately under the contracts. And unless it's a grievous or negligence, that's when if the architect or one of the designers makes it's an error or omission that was negligence. And you get into a very legal aspect there of proving negligence, but they are entitled to make a mistake. And that just is part of the risk or responsibility that the owner takes on. And why we do carry contingencies for this reason is really for the unforeseen. Fortunately, we haven't had anything real significant on that part so far.
Do I have a motion for Redmond KNCC GMP adjustment?
I'll make that motion. It's a long one. I better put my reading glasses.
Yes, right there, right. Yeah, all the words.
I move to authorize the library director with signing authority up to about $31,500,000 for the KNCC Redmond Library construction contract, plus the original GMGC pre-construction services cost of $115,500 for a combined total of $31,615,500.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote no, because I'm rather confused by this moving GMP.
You're confused about what?
With moving GMP, who's responsible for what?
Oh.
My understanding was the architect, the advantage of doing the CMGC and getting GMP is that the architect and the contractors agree that these are the final designs, this is the buildability, this is buildable. And now they accept the risk of both the design and the construction costs, leaving us of anything except what we want for a change order. So that, what you're saying, that's not true. So I have,
It sounds more, what you're talking about is a design build, where the architect and contractor are truly partnered together, and they set, and in that, which is a different delivery format than just the CMGC, because in that, the architect and contractor are actually truly partnered together. But no, under the CMGC format that we have, is that while the contractor is brought on board to anticipate as many of the potential changes, there is still a certain amount that are just owner requests, but also things that they could not have anticipated and planned for within their CMGC pricing, their GMP price.
and that's why they're usually higher on the CMGC price than a design build, because they already have that built in.
Yeah.
Right.
And
we're
there's a
looking into
lot,
that.
there are a lot of things, Ray, that they anticipate and they do plan for and they use their contingency for.
Right.
But there are some things that they just could not have known. And those are things that then, and they will ask us to reimburse that, and it is in compliance with the contract form.
That becomes a change order on our part.
Right. Which is what we're planning for here.
Right.
And so Ray, do you want to?
No, I'm still gonna vote no.
Okay, well, the motion passes. We'll continue on to Sunriver Library, FF&E.
So much like Redmond, this is the final pricing on the shelving systems. The summary that I wrote up is very similar. I wrote like consistently the same way, just kind of describing the process that we went through previously, where we're at today. Very much the same thing is that we went through this whole shelving design, layout, all of the display units, all of those different components that we have in there. Been finalized in design, gone through the pricing and itemized out for us by space saver specialists. And it's currently at $290,000, which is within the budget we had established for that. So outside of that, is there questions? It's very much the same as what we did on Redmond. So we did them concurrent.
This is the final cost.
Yes.
They'll entertain a motion for Sunriver Library FF&E.
Also move.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, Sunriver FF&E furniture procurement.
And this is, all of the furniture, and as you may remember on Sisters Little Pine, the way we went about purchasing all of our furniture, predominantly it's all through cooperative agreements. We have 4 different ones that we utilize. We had, a couple of vendors that weren't in a cooperative agreement, and we previously gone out for an RFP, and then we processed a special procurement sole source for those. So our vendor is Pacific Workplace Resources of Oregon, also called WRO. And so they work with us on all of these. We've gone through, finalized all of the furniture, all of the finishes, all of the colors, all the little details, and got it wrapped up. And we'll be getting this contract, written up and the order placed here, there shortly after. They do submittals and that, and get it on order. So it's within our budget established for the furniture, so there's no adjustments necessary on that side. This would be the final cost that, it's up to 140,000, so there's always some fine tuning, especially around what's the shipping cost. They like to quote that once they're able to finalize the orders with their vendors. And that, so, but it wouldn't exceed the 140. Questions?
How does it cost compare with Lapine and Sisters?
Very consistent. It's a little bit less because there's less furniture. But the units, because we're buying a lot of things that are the same, especially here, track very closely to, there's annually, there's price updates. So in July, there's a price update. So we got all of our pricing here in June to try and get that wrapped up so that we don't hit that. They do anticipate certain ones that they know they're going to get hit because of the multiple vendors in the furniture world. Each manufacturer does their own thing. But they've been very close. We saw very minimal movement in pricing from what we priced in January or actually December for Sisters in Malkin. And in this case, it was almost 100% the same manufacturers and vendors. We'll see a lot more new ones come out in Redmond because there's different needs there and different products and materials. So.
Any other discussion on that?
No.
All right. I'll entertain a motion for Sunriver FF&E furniture procurement.
I move to authorize the library director with signing authority up to $140,000 for the Sunriver Library's furniture contract.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, monitoring report, community involvement, is that Todd?
Yes, great, thank you. So just as a reminder, this is a board policy that was developed really to making sure that we are actually getting out in the community, not just sitting in the library waiting for people to show up, but getting out there and being active. I have shared with you, well, let's take a look at a couple of things. I shall not fail to explore partnerships whenever such partnerships would be cost effective and of mutual benefit. Fail to seek public input on operational issues, which is addressed in here, and fail to be visible in the community and present a positive image of the library district. And that extends to me and this, and as your one employee, but it also as you can see, it's a group effort on this. This is something that, as you're aware of, I'm very proud of the fact that our staff has made a real effort over the last several years to get out into the community. And we started that about 10 years ago with our community librarian model, but we got very intentional a few years ago, really making sure that we're making connections that really helped us forward our ability to broaden our connections out in the community. And then as far as partnerships, as you'll see, I kind of listed this as the first round of partnerships where we have a definite memorandum of understanding, kind of our more involved partnerships. And then I also included the community visibility and presence, as well as the appendix at the end. It's just the number of, and the last few pages are the number of agencies. We really have kind of at least a one-off. We've done something with them. So it kind of goes through levels of our partnerships. And hopefully through this, you get somewhat of an idea of what we do. We have so many partnerships that it's hard to really highlight them all. But we did ask one of our partners to be here with us. And maybe Catherine, can you introduce us?
Sure, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll just say this is Victoria. We've been working together for, I don't know, a couple of years maybe, other than that.
Well, with this specific position, it's been a year.
Okay, so it just, we've done so much.
Yeah.
Anyway, and she's the resident services manager for Cornerstone Community Housing, and they are the company that's contracted to provide services at all the housing work sites in Central Oregon and a few others. And that is a lot. It's 32 apartment complexes.
Yeah. Across Central Oregon. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is Victoria, and I'll let her share.
I'm Victoria. So I guess I'll start with what my position is and then move into the partnership. So I started this position with between Cornerstone Community Housing and Housing Works August of last year. So the person that was in this position before was with Housing Works. But when that ended, Housing Works approached Cornerstone Community Housing to ask, can you provide services to our 32 complexes in Central Oregon? Because Cornerstone does two main things. That's one of them is build affordable housing complexes in Eugene. That's where the hub is. And then the other part is to provide its own services, which looks like free food pantries for residents. So, we'll bring food out and give food away to the residents and whoever else shows up. It could be a dental clinic. Advantage Dental has come out to provide services for free. It can be something fun, like a birthday celebration. I'm gonna do that one in 2 weeks. So Catherine and I have done so much that it feels like we've been working together for 25 years. So since my position is a year old for me, Catherine has been a huge help because her fingers are in, lots of different things in the community. And so it helped introduce me to other agencies and get going with creating different events. So let's see, what have we done so far? So Catherine and I put our heads together to do a recurring event that happens at Ariel Glen. Have y'all heard of the Ariel Glen apartments? I see some notes. So that one is on 15th Street, not far from the police station.
Okay.
By the school there. So that complex is huge, 100-something units. And so the library comes out there the third Thursday every month, brings books and can help youth sign up for cards, right? Library cards. There's pizza, so youth can come eat, get some books, do some fun STEM activity, meet other kids in the community. Parents can come mingle and
learn more about the services and programs through the library. So that's been pretty cool. And then we expanded it to other agencies coming out on a specific Thursday each month. Couple of them had to drop out because of staffing and other things, but so that's something. And then the summer with the library, we've been doing that at the apartment complexes. Area Glen had theirs. The most recent one was at Area Glen, and that was huge. I don't know if y'all heard about the turnout for that one. It was a lot. Yeah, they had free ice cream. We had farm fresh local produce, and residents were so grateful that this was set up, that the library was able to do something like this. They're like, oh my gosh, organic vegetables, I can't afford this. So that was really nice to see. What else? Is that, any questions? How about that one?
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you're principally in Eugene,
excuse me?
your housing and developments are principally in Eugene, or is that?
In Eugene, we haven't expanded beyond that for building.
So the one you have in Bend is the one on 15th across from the sheriff, the police department?
So the one that I was talking about on 15th Street is owned by Housing Works, and they have 32 of them. So there's 9 or 10 in Bend. And then there's Bend, Redmond, Prineville, Madras, Lapine. There's apartments in all of those that Housing Works owns. Yeah, so I work with every single one.
Have we participated in or provided services in other ones also?
Yes, so we also have community nights every month,
Uh-huh.
and at different apartment complexes throughout the county, and the library comes to those too, throughout Deschutes County. The library has attended those. Like, we had one in Sisters, the Ponderosa Heights Apartments. The library was there, and that was so the library was there. There was the STEM hub, so other agencies were there to get residents connected to services. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
All righty, any other discussion on this topic?
No, thank
Thank
you.
you,
I know
thank
you're
you.
very busy with 32.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time.
That's exciting.
And let's see, do we have a motion for community involvement?
I move to find that the library is in compliance with the executive limitations policy 3C.
Second.
All those in favor?
Oh, discussion on this. I mean, I've always been harping on to Todd about, let's see the results. And this is a nice example, I mean, perfect example of results. When the agency comes and says, we did something that helped your agency goal and not just our own goal. The partnership really works for both. And that's really great. The only question I have is, did you approach the library? It sounds like the library is already involved when you took over your position.
I had a meeting with Michelle. Hey, she contacted us. But then that was different though, because then somehow someone said, oh, I know Victoria. Yeah, I cannot remember.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
So it was sort of mutual. The contact was made and then you both moved forward.
Yeah.
I think you might remember Catherine presented to you all about a year and a half ago about the community engagement model that the
Uh-huh.
librarian team was moving toward.
Right.
And this is all a result of Catherine's amazing work in getting that community engagement model like really off the ground. And this was an amazing, wonderful example of how we could like further develop that. She's been doing this kind of work just all over the place. So I want to give big props to her right now.
Excellent.
And the power of like having Victoria, she doesn't live there, but having Victoria, she knows the properties, like she walks through the properties, and having that connection has been so important. And I feel like Ariel Glen is such a testament that having that repeated programming, that we could build up those relationships. So then when we have a big celebration, so much of the community came out, which we I keep saying, because we have the free ice cream this year. And we told, the woman that it's specific perks, we told her, we only pay for 100 servings. And I was like, don't worry, we've never had more than 50 people at any of these events. So 100 was twice as many as we could like 55 was our biggest number ever. And so the first event was Alpenglow, where 500 people showed up.
Oh my
Okay, can I say the Slogging Hill scene, I promise, there won't be anything like this again. And then the next event was Ariel Glen, and we completely sold them out and depleted them again. But
It's so cool.
yeah.
Another thing,
Mhm.
so we give newsletters out to the properties as well, and we do community partner highlights in those newsletters. So the library is highlighted in there as a community partner. So I heard someone talking about community highlights when I first walked in here, so I wanted to say that, because y'all were curious.
Does it actually also get highlighted in Eugene throughout your system, or is it just here?
Just here, it's per county. So for Deschutes County, the library is highlighted. And then in Crook County, when I got newsletter, Crook County Library will be highlighted as a partner.
Is there any way to get some, or where are those notifications? I would have loved to have come to the sisters one.
Oh,
So the sisters one is still coming.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
well, the community, that
Oh,
community that
I know.
Yeah, that
Sorry,
one.
never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every month, since there's 32 properties, every month there's a big community event, and the sisters one happened already.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So watch the website.
I'm gonna send newsletters to Catherine, and then she'll have everything for the next 3 months.
I can send you the pod and.
Does that show up under our med guide when we do so?
That wasn't there.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
I would have noticed if it was free ice cream.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah, we're really focusing on the residents of that area.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, good.
Okay,
So we have a motion and a
Second.
second. All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, the next is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Show is great.
Thank you very much.
Grab it around.
Yeah.
So is this something that's easily duplicated, or?
Nothing's easy, but that's just a microcosm
Yeah.
of what we're doing. These types of things, they kind of tangentially hit on it, but when we started this, it was us going to apartment complexes, and it's expanded into other agencies like Parks and Rec and Farm to Table, saying, hey, if you're gonna be there, can we join? So it's kind of gone beyond with the board's statement of, we'll have partnerships. And it's just organically grown into something that we did for a one-to-one partnership has grown into, 6 to 15 agencies all coming together. That wouldn't have happened if we hadn't started this.
I think that's really meeting the intent when we did this policy. Not just get people out of the building, but to make it so that the library is actually integrated into the community. The community sees you as a real resource other than just space and books. But it's a community building.
Yeah.
Great.
Excellent.
Okay, the decision resolution 19 authorizing signatures.
Okay, I left 10 minutes because I figured this would be so controversial. Basically, for the bank, we just need to solidify what you just voted on. And so basically that Bunny is president, that each of the board members is available to sign if Bunny's not available, or the way we do it, which is we rotate it. And that's all this really is. I've printed out one for Bunny to sign where we put in Bunny's name and did that while Greg was talking.
Is that this?
No,
And there's
that's,
a resolution.
that's the
It's a
resolution. So
yeah.
once you pass the resolution, then you're okay to sign that thing.
Okay.
So that's my recommendation is, one, if there are any questions, we'd glad to answer them. Otherwise, this is the same one we use every year.
We don't have to sign again, signature cards for the bank.
No, we already have everybody's signatures.
We do, we have everybody's signatures with the bank. We will be changing up the official signature on the checks so that it will reflect our new board president. So that's that other paper that I had top put in front of you is, so we can import it into our
This,
check.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, use your best signature because it's gonna be on every check.
maybe I should practice first.
And fit it in the box.
Yeah. I move to adopt resolution 19.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. All right, we are on to updates on the library.
One update, which I don't know if I don't know what the timing was, but it was kind of mentioned here. We had the kickoff for summer reading this year at Alpenbow. I don't, did we mention it last?
Yeah,
We did,
yeah.
okay, I won't talk about
because there were 500 people, right?
Yes.
Yes.
that. A couple of, we are beyond, and it's mentioned in the report I just gave you, beyond setting up things like that. We also try to have a presence at festivals, fairs. I had the great honor of being able to go to our, work in our Juneteenth booth in the park, which is a great connection with our community. And then the next week, we had the Pride Day out at COCC. And that was an amazing event. There were thousands of people out there. And it kind of goes back to our work session. And it's not that we are reaching out to try to be political about something, as we serve our entire community, and that is a big part of our community, because there are a lot of people. And it shows the power of what we're doing, because I had so many people, and they don't know who I was, coming up and just saying thank you to the library just for being here. It's important to us. It shows that you're part of our community as well. You're serving us as well as you serve everybody else. And it's a great event. We had other agencies, the cities there, Parks and Rec is there. But anyway, it kind of ties back into our work session that it's really important for us to be a part of our community, and the community appreciates that because they start seeing themselves as being represented.
Did you have a lot of people sign up for the library card at those events?
We did not do library card signups for those, so we talked a lot about that. Really, it's just a chance to spend some time with people. The Pride one was amazing because we had a craft, which I thought nobody's going to do this craft, and people were standing there for 15 to 20 minutes working on intricate crafts, which is a really nice chance to just sit and talk with people. We actually had people lined up waiting to do the craft. So
Did Duncan have a Juneteenth or?
both of those were kind of Central Oregon wide. So it wasn't the Bend Juneteenth, yeah. We track those. If they start doing those, we'll be there. So. Not really library news, but library news, we have some buildings opening soon. And I just wanted to throw it out to the board. I think it would be great if we could have our October board meeting at the Lapine Library and our November meeting at the Sisters Library, if that works for you.
It's October.
Lapine,
Lapine.
and November it's Sisters. We could attempt to squeak it in Lapine, but that'll be just a little, both of them will be just a little bit too soon to do right when we have our board meeting. And we'll be solidly open in October and November in those two.
Pretty exciting.
And that's it.
That is it.
The foundation.
All right, foundation news.
I don't have much. There is nothing really new to report on the foundation, although they're working hard on all kinds of things and having our meeting, next week, so, yeah, there's a lot going on there, and can I just take a sec to talk about ALA? Give my report. So I attended ALA in Chicago this year, and it is by far the best ALA, the American Library Association meeting that I've ever been to. I mean, it was just outstanding. And last year, when Bunny and I went to PLA in Portland, there was a lot of talk about book challenges and things like that, but it was more sort of like statistical. I mean, it was a little bit removed. It was like, yeah, this is really ramping up and we're seeing more of this, and and statistics and things like this. And this meeting was really focused on it's hit now. I mean, libraries, public libraries, school libraries all over the United States are being hit with an unprecedented number of book challenges. And so there were multiple sessions, which I listed here of some of the sessions that I went to that were focused on this, and then they're emphasized in all of this. So on the one hand, there were people that were in communities that were undergoing these book challenges, and just with their tremendous stories of courage in standing up for the freedom to read, that was really inspirational. Librarians are getting death threats over this. They're getting, there's just all kinds of things happening nationwide. And what was emphasized is while it is packaged to appear as locally grown, it is not. It is nationally funded in most cases, and the agenda is being driven by national groups operating off the same list of books. In many cases, people reported that books were challenged in their libraries that they did not own and had never owned. So it's just like multiple, here's 50 books that we object to, take them away. And they had never even been in collection. So there were tremendous stories of people that were really standing up, including from teenagers, from high school kids that were saying, these books are important for us to have access to, and we want to defend our ability to be able to read what we choose and what our parents choose is appropriate for us. So that was really inspirational. And then also, there's just a ton of organizations, many of which are led by ALA, but a lot of other private organizations that are developing resources around this as far as toolkits, help for what to do, just all kinds of assistance is out there. And so there's a list of that, and a lot of this was driven around the 70th anniversary of the Freedom to Read statement. And when you look back, and what was emphasized was that that Freedom to Read statement was promulgated during the 1950s at the heart of the McCarthy era. And here we are at 70 years later, and we're still, I mean, it's as important now as it was then. I just really appreciate, I want to thank the library system for investing in board education, and because it really opened my eyes. I mean, I knew, obviously, we all know that this is going on, but it was just way more specifics, way more tools, way more resources that are available to libraries around the nation, and it just made me really realize that it's up to each of us to stand up for our freedoms, our First Amendment rights. This is driven by the people in our communities, that we have to stand up for these rights and stand up for the rights of parents to be able to select the books that they feel are appropriate for their kids, which includes a broad range of books that aren't curated by somebody else. So that's all I've got. I just really appreciate it.
I recently read a really interesting article, and I'm wondering if this came up at all during when you were there. That this is the banning of books is not grassroots. It's coming from 5 major organizations that are, or not major, but there are 5 groups that are planting people in different places to do this. Did that come up at all?
Yeah, and they said that, I mean, it was like a huge number of challenges came from a very small number
Yes.
of individual people as
And
well.
they're making, and people, when they get a few people in a community, those people are trying to sell it, that this is a community-wide decision, we're all up in arms over these books, and it's not a community-wide, it's a small select people that are being handpicked by these organizations.
Right, and they emphasize that the number of people that are for this is a very, very small segment of society. And the majority, based on polling nationwide, the majority of people do not support this. But because of the tactics that they use, they make their voice appear their support appear much broader, and their voice appear much louder. They emphasize that a lot.
Did they give any projections as far as where they think this will carry us in the next few years, or how long this might go on? Obviously, McCarthyism didn't go on that much longer before it was shut down, but
They did not, because they said in 2022, there were over 2,500 individual titles that were challenged. And this was a 40% increase over the previous year. And they said these numbers, I mean, they were showing statistics. And the year before was by far the most that they had ever had nationally since they started tracking this. And so, I mean, it's going up exponentially. So they had absolutely no projections because this is unprecedented.
Our concern really is, we can say that it's just a few number of people. They are so well organized and so well funded. It reminds me very much of what's happened with abortion. That the majority of the public think gun rights, gun control. The majority of the American public says, no, we need to have some sensible gun control. We know we're in favor of abortion with certain rules and regulations. And yet we see that at the legislative level, it's changing dramatically and rather quickly. And even the courts now, our highest court, is being influenced by that. Ideological is no longer rational. My concern is, I mean, we've had it here in Central Oregon at the school district, right? At the library. I'm just concerned that it's just a matter of time. Depends on how we respond. If we add fuel to the fire, then we become the target. But at the same time, how do we uphold the rights of individuals to select the materials they want access to and their children have access to without being made the bad guy? All right, the ultra liberal again. How do we go about doing this and just going out there? My concern is just going out there, we're presenting the facts and being rational. It doesn't get you anywhere. I won't say it doesn't get you anywhere, but you walk right into their trap. Okay, so it's difficult. And the more vociferous we get, advocating for a specific position like ALA had, which is the right thing to do. Is it the wrong thing to do? In terms of public
I
perception?
think it also helps that we have a policy in place that addresses this.
And that's exactly what they advocated was, and I mean, the one thing that I forgot to say was that Emily's presentation right before I left was like the perfect lead into this. And so it's like, there are things that can be done to protect that, as far as having good policies in place. And I mean, Emily is helping library districts throughout the state develop the policies that they need. And it's, you know, so there's a lot that can be done proactively.
Did they have any recommendations for saying what you can do other than just being rational? Having our policies in place says, we have a policy and we follow it.
Right.
And the opposition is going to say, well, I don't like what you're coming up with. You do have the policy, but you're disregarding my opinion. You're being prejudicial against what I believe or what this group believes. And they can always just say, it's a large number of people. We can't hard pressed to say, oh, it's only 5 people and they're not even here. And there's a lot of people here who would believe. A lot of people believe whatever they're told enough times. So was there any recommendation during the ALA that said, let's take this away from just being totally intellectual freedom to read, intellectual freedom, and really get to what's motivating people? Why are they buying into this book banning of LGBTQ and racial books in particular? I mean, I like good old days when it was just Harry Potter. My God,
She's on abandoned.
Hmm?
She's on abandoned books.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they threw bricks through the window of the bookstore downtown because they had a window display of Harry Potter. And that went away after a week, but I'm afraid this is not going away. And we have to have something else other than saying, this is what we do, and we're gonna stick to it. I'm afraid that's not gonna be good enough. Was there anything at ALA where people said, why are they involved? Why are they asking to ban these books, and how do we address their issues? Because we have to take a position that said, they do have a valid reason for wanting to ban the books. How do we turn it around so they say, yeah, it's a valid reason, but.
I think all those arguments have been lined out in the freedom to read and all of the ALA stuff. And I mean, what they said was basically develop your allies ahead of time. Because you can't change people's minds. But you can have your allies in place in advance. So they said, part of that is education about why it's important. The philosophical reasons are important. I mean, it's like why we have the Bill of Rights to our Constitution, which is what this is all about. And so understanding how how freedom of reading protects freedom of information, which leads to an informed electorate, which leads to democracy. And I mean, that's the reason why that was the very first amendment that was proposed. It was the basis for our form of government. So the wider that understanding is among the general public, among the people that we deal with, for instance, schools, other agencies, other groups in the community, then if we do get into a situation where people have objected, that we have some allies in place already. And there's a million other things in these toolkits, and I know that our library staff, they're professional librarians, we are not, but they've been reading and researching this issue for years now. So I feel that like we have the expertise here in this library to be well prepared.
Well, I like the suggestion of having allies so that we're not necessarily seen as being the spearhead. I mean, ideally for me is it's community upswelling. and just responding to what the community is saying. That would be great, but then we have to get other groups that we represent, diverse communities on opinion. You know, school district is great, but we've already seen what's happening with them. They become the target. So who do we have?
Well,
We should be working with others
I would
who are
point.
trusted in.
I would point to
Point
this
to our
list.
partnership.
Yeah.
We have very strong connections in the community.
Yeah.
So is it time for, you know, to start working with the partners and positioning it? Because we know it's coming. And then of course.
Stay on top of it. Okay, as, the next topic is critical communication.
One thing, sorry, I should add this to the agenda, but it kind of popped up. We just had our work session. We've been trying to have quarterly work sessions. Just something for the board to think about is topics for the next one. I've had a couple of you bring up the topic of what are we calling the Stevens Ranch Library, which is a great question because we picked that when we moved from Roble. When we moved from Roble to Stevens Ranch, that name came out of confusion that was happening in our design meetings. Where, because at Roble, we called it the Central Library. And when we moved it, we started calling it something different because we kept having meetings where people were saying, are you talking about this building or the one that Roble Road? And so that's why we started using that. So that would be a great discussion point with the board. Maybe for a future work session.
Right.
And if you have any other topics that you'd like to look at, well, let me know. That'll help us set up what that work session would be. I did say one piece that we were trying to do today was also to have that liability piece with our insurance company. It's only 30 minutes. We're just going to add it into the regular September meeting. And that is, Ray had a great point. If you didn't see it, special districts have excellent training. If you have a chance to take part in any of those, it's great. This is more on our insurance side where they want to make sure that you have the information so that, because they're the ones insuring, so they're trying to save themselves some money in the future. So anyway, that would just be a quick piece of our September regular.
And the September meeting is what date? Okay.
Second Tuesday, second Wednesday.
That's a great question.
Is it here?
September 13th.
13.
Where we're gonna have Lapine and
Lapine in October. And Sisters in November.
I have to tell a funny story about piggyback on what you said. I had a woman approach me when I was in the grocery store the other day. She was a woman that she worked in our district, the school district office, and I had encountered her numerous times. And so she came up to me and she said, now you just were re-elected to the library board. And I said, yes. She goes, I have a really strong concern I have to discuss with you. She said, I really resent the fact that 2 major libraries are being built in Bend. Oh. And I said, 2 major libraries? What are you talking about? And she said, well, you're building that one huge library going on the way out to Sisters. And now you've decided to build another great big huge library on another side of town. And I said, no. So people are totally confused.
Oh, misinformation.
Oh my gosh. I said, no, the one that's going is we just own that piece of property. Nothing is being built there. She said, well, but I went by there not too long ago and she said, a lot of construction. I said, yeah, highway, road construction. We have nothing to do with it.
Jeez. Good point. As far as critical communication, I didn't identify anything else that was critical for us to get out.
Anybody have it?
Okay.
All right. Self-review of meeting. Yeah.
I really appreciated our work session. And going forward, I hope that's a topic we as a board can revisit. Because I think it's important for us as a board, as a staff, and the community to kind of be all on the same page. So I do hope that we continue to revisit that topic.
I agree completely. I thought that was really beneficial and I like the fact that the staff has done and is doing so much work in this area and that we know what they're doing and we can benefit from it as well. And I really appreciated Greg's report as always. Just all the thought and care and attention that's being devoted to flexibility and mobility and making these buildings that we're building and renovating be as useful as they can for decades to come. I think that that's money really well spent. Because things change and now we have the capability to change with them. So that's good. And I really love the community partnership report. I mean, I thought that was really inspirational and knowing that we're setting ourselves up through these building projects to be able to do more of that work in the future because of our automated materials handling and our ability to move books around and just have that flexibility. And so I think that that's perfect and it's great work. So that's all I got.
Oh, good. Tom.
Great work session. That work session is really important to our staff. We've been asked a lot as we work through equity, diversity, and inclusion it's great we're doing this, but what's happening at the top? And so they were very encouraged that we were having this work session. And that's great. That also shows the level of support that this work we're doing is supportive. So thank you for that. Great report, Greg. And it's great for Catherine to share what's happening with the partnerships out there. There's so many out there that we could probably fill every board meeting with the partnerships we have because we're making some really significant connections out in the community that most people will never know about. But it's really doing something that's helping forward our mission and vision.
Right.
Right. Oh, I agree with all what's been said. Equity, diversity, inclusion workshop. Excellent. I see this at the beginning. Continuing process with staff and the board to doing this. I like Catherine's presentation. I wouldn't mind if we had educational sessions at each of our board meetings or selected ones to actually highlight community partnerships, what's actually been done. Ulterior motive being like, these are the people who we want to work with. As book banning becomes more central issue for us. So I really appreciate that. I could probably stop harping on Todd. Give me results. I'm sure he's appreciative of that too. I might suggest, with the SDA workshop that we all attend that. I've gone to, I guess every time they've had it, I learned something new every time I refresh my memory. Yeah. And then maybe have a work session to follow up on what we've learned there, to apply it to what we're going through here. That would really help.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the work session and in a way, I felt like the community partnership list of things really shows how library is attempting to reach out and in many aspects of the community. And that's part of the diversity and inclusion as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, that was a great meeting and I agree with Anne. It's something that I hope we continue doing. I know it's something that I need to continue being aware of and growing and appreciate Greg's report.
I agree with what everyone has said, especially the DEI and what you said about the staff wanting to know. We don't think about that so often, and we need to be in tune with that. You do such a great job, and we don't often say, you do such a great job. So we miss those. So I want to definitely see the staff. And Greg, thanks for your report. I'm impressed that we had some changes a little bit, but a lot of things were, oh, that's within budget, and we're going for it, that's within budget, so that's kind of within too. So thank you all. Anything else?
Congratulations, Madam President.
Yes.
I have some big shoes to fill. Meeting adjourned.
Robert,
Yes.
Cynthia was asking if anybody can look at the new van. I don't know if it's still here.
Hey, I believe
Which
it
one?
is.
Oh, right.
Yes, it's right outside, so if you want to, yeah, I don't have the keys with me to open it up and show you all the bells and whistles. Maybe
Kind of best.
point out for you what's all going on with it here.
I gotta practice here.
I'm getting hot and I realized why I put this on.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
no,
no,
that's exactly, it does, it kind of swings one way and the other.
Oh, I better stop the meeting.